there. So interesting stuff there. John, free agency looming. What other free agents do you think are relevant to the Eagles this year? I read a piece from Jimmy Kempski yesterday on phillyvoice.com. Jimmy does great work, and he just mocked up a couple guys that make sense for the Eagles. I think is how he worded it. 3 free agents who make sense for the Eagles. It was his 3.0 version. So he's done a couple of them. The 3 names he put were on yesterday's were Christian Kirk, wide receiver. Maybe if the thought process there would be if AJ goes. Evan Neal, offensive lineman from the Giants. Interesting. He was a very high draft pick. And then Jamari Salyer, I think you say it. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. 25-year-old offensive lineman from the Chargers. So 2 offensive linemen and a receiver there. It's not to say you got to talk about those names, but John, any other free agents that we haven't talked about that you think could be a fit for the Eagles? I don't think they're going to be huge players this year, but you got to build the roster. They got 21 of their own free agents, so they're going to have to replace some of these guys. Can't do it all in the draft. Who do you think makes sense for the Eagles on the free agent list?
Well, I mentioned one before. My top guy is Charlie Kolar. I'm all Charlie Kolared up for what the Eagles need. The other guy I mentioned was and I did this for SI a couple of days ago, was Kwity Paye. If you lose but that's only if you lose Jalen Phillips. And then I went Jacksonville corner Monterick Brown. If you're looking for, a slight upgrade at cornerback 2 that you could bring in, probably on a 2-year, somewhat cost-effective deal, more middle class, but you can afford it. I like Monterick Brown. He's very long, very lengthy, not the fastest guy in the world, but the Eagles play so much zone, they can make up for it. And he's been productive in Jacksonville. So those are the 3 I chose. And it's mainly about fit, and they're not going to spend a lot of money. And the only one of those 3 that would cost significant money, Paye's going to get some decent money, but the Eagles have budgeted for edge defender because they know how much it's going to cost to get Phillips back. So, that money's already budgeted to that position, and you'd actually be getting a cheaper player in Kwity Paye if you have to force and change direction. So those are the 3 guys I talked about. What I can tell you is the Eagles are like everybody else, and they don't think it's a very deep free agency class. Howie's on record saying the way you build a team is draft well, sign your own, and supplement in free agency. So it's going to be very similar to last year that we dubbed here the Tamu offseason, which they probably don't like, but you might have 1 or 2 players that are a little bit, last year they didn't give anybody multiple years. This year they might give a couple guys, but certainly not drastic, certainly not high profile, more role players. And that's why I like Kolar and Monterick Brown specifically. And I think of all of them, and I will spike the football if they get him, it's Charlie Kolar, because to me, he's the perfect fit for what the Eagles want to do on offense.
And you think he'd be tight end 1?
No. Can't catch. I mean, right. Not a high volume.
You're looking at it. You're looking at a secondary piece that would fit into the tight end room. That would give them.
He'd be the 12 personnel starter. He'd be the second tight end. But he's not. He has good hands. He'll catch the ball when you throw it to him, but he's not going to get open.
Right. He's not a pass catching tight end.
No. But I think you need that player. I think the Eagles and Howie also admitted, on the record, he's got to evolve at tight end. When he was talking about, he prefers what you brought up earlier. His history is he falls in love with receiving tight ends. He said, our improvement, and I'm paraphrasing, I'll get the quote, but he basically said that us improving there is about me evolving and opening my mind to having, more of the blocking style tight end. So he's aware as well that they need that for this offense to succeed.
Going to be interesting to see what they end up doing there, Johnny Mac, with everything going on the free agency front. I like some of your names there, John. Let's hit the Eagle news before we get to Ian Cumming. Couple pieces of news, not big, but did get a couple things yesterday. Another coaching staff addition with a former Army assistant, Alan Smith. And then you mentioned it at the top of the show. They're bringing back defensive lineman Graham. Not to be confused with Brandon Graham. This is not Brandon Graham. This is Taquan Graham, defensive lineman. John, what's the latest in the Eagle news, man? What do you make of those two signings? I know you put up 2 articles about those 2 things as well yesterday.
Yeah, well, the coaching staff's getting deeper. I mean, they lost Rennell Williams to the Raiders. He got a promotion out there. He was the assistant linebackers coach for the Eagles and a quality control guy. Went to school at Westchester, local guy, coached at Temple. So good for him. He got a promotion out with some, as I mentioned, a lot of Eagles tint out in Las Vegas now. So they brought in Alan Smith, but what's interesting is, so Rennell kind of assisted Bobby King, which is the inside linebackers coach, and Alan Smith is going to be the assistant outside linebackers coach. So that's the edge defenders. That's the edge rushers, basically. And in theory, he would be helping Jeremiah Washburn. So a little bit of shift, and we're going to see the Eagles still haven't finalized their coaching staff, but it's going to be pretty deep, 25-ish. And, this is a new position in theory. So, an assistant, more of a lower level position, assistant position coach job. But we pride ourselves on telling you everything. So, I wouldn't lose sleep over it. But, probably you lose Rennell Williams, you bring in a new coach, and we'll see how it works out. And then Taquan Graham got here. He was in Atlanta for a long time as a rotational player. Believe he was a 5th round pick originally out of Texas, and he played there for 4+ seasons. Got cut in November last year, and the Eagles put him on the practice squad for the rest of the season. So he was here for about the last 10 games. Good dude. Played a lot of football. I think he's played 51 games. Probably wanted to look around to see if there was a better deal, and decided to come back to Philadelphia. Good depth piece. Nothing more than that. But, I would say the biggest positive is he can play inside and outside. It's always good when you have those guys. Similar to what I said about Jalen Phillips, but Jalen obviously at a much higher level. He can play, anywhere from, 2 eye to outside to 7